Rachael, Adam, a year and 9 months ago, some idea came together, a meeting of the minds. Rachael, what was the idea behind the idea that started this that you guys did together?
Okay, so I've been in real estate my whole career. I love real estate. I love the law too. And I was really challenged at my job. Felt like I wasn't doing as much as I could be doing. So I had an idea, like, I'm going to leave. You get to a point of a job where you stop being you and you're like, okay, well, I'm either going to be really self-destructive now or I'm going to have to make a change. So I said, let me leave and figure out how I'd been doing zoning and land use previously and loved it. I said, let me see if I can do that for a little while I'm figuring out what I really want to do, which is real estate development in some type of way. Okay. So I quit my job in July of 2017 and I talked to Adam before I was leaving. I talked to Adam an uncomfortable amount. Talked to Adam and I said, I need to leave my job. I'm really unhappy, and I want to do real estate again, but I don't know what exactly I want to do. For a short time partner with some other people and tried to explore that. That didn't work, and everything always came back to Adam.
So Adam, your brother, twins.
My twin brother.
What about Adam draws you to him being, in a sense, someone you're confidant, someone you trust? So
we're twins, and we say that, and people are like, "Oh, we get that." But when you're a twin, it's a special bond you have with your sibling. We have another sister, and it's special. But with Adam, he's my twin, and in my opinion, he has every skill set I don't have. He has, I'm impatient. Adam's really patient. We're both funny. I don't know if you might think you're funnier, but we're both funny. But he's really good with numbers. I run from math. He always wanted to do business. I nitty gritty of details and specific work and sort of an artistry of the way that we practice. He just has every complementary skill set I don't possess. And he believes in me above and beyond anyone ever because he just gets me right.
I think the story really is Rachael said, and listen, Rachael's special in a few ways. She probably doesn't hear it as often as she should from me, but she's nagging in the best way. I would say persistent, like you wouldn't believe. And she's really objective driven, right? And she's very relationship focused. So Rachael had this plethora, and what I consider one of my talents is seeing the board, right? So seeing everything that you're coming up with, all the skills you have, and then placing you in the right spot. So Rachael said, listen, I'm not happy. I'm kind of being held down from my full potential. So she said, I'm thinking about getting into real estate. It's really what I loved in it. And she worked for an at-large councilman, which doesn't directly affect real estate as much. You're doing a lot more broad issues in the city. So she came and said, listen, I think I can do this thing. And the first thing I said was, I'm not sure there's a business there. I'm not sure you can do just what you like to do, which was the zoning, helping out with violations, this very specialized practice. And I said, I'm not sure. So I said, listen, this is what we'll do. I can commit about...
Well, you and Dad said, you have to prove it to us.
Well,
we had to
it's
prove
true.
it to me. And I'm not a numbers person, so I'm how am I going to prove? I don't even know how to do it.
So we put it on paper.
Okay.
Theoretically, it worked on paper.
And what did that business look like on paper?
Yeah, so that business looked like Rachael working a lot of hours
Adam
billing.
also looked into how many developers there were. So there was some metric. He's like, if I can figure out how many developers there were and how many zoning attorneys there are, and there's some sort of math in those numbers, and why? How are we going to be able to take business?
Is the problem that you're solving in a sense creating more time and efficiency for a developer?
It's a great question. So what we really do is we really are a collaborative interface. What we try to do is bring people that both want the same objectives, maybe from different angles, and realize that there's a compromise in there. A lot of times when people think about attorneys, they think about it being this very adversarial thing. Well, real estate touches everybody, and it really shouldn't be thought of as adversarial. So in the way we look at it is everybody's trying to achieve the goal. The developer's trying to achieve the goal, a goal of a better neighborhood. The community wants a better neighborhood, but they want it to be done responsibly. And our way of doing that, and all the intricacies, Rachael could go for hours about who's connected in real estate, because really every branch of government, every person is affected by real estate, by their neighborhoods, and finding that happy medium, making it all work. It's really project management, and it's beautiful.
So could one say, in a sense, this country being founded on real estate, it's how we build our
People
general
fight wars
ecosystem.
over land.
Wars over land.
Yeah.
Does that drive you to, in a sense, you're a
Well, it's
micro reflection
tangible.
of that?
What I like about this law is it's tangible. You can see it. Like a lot of lawyers push paper, and we push paper plenty, but the end product, if we do our jobs right, is a new building or a new park or whatever, where you can see it and feel it and touch it, and it helps people or it doesn't help people, depending on who you talk to. Yeah. And that's what's exciting about it, and you get to actually help build things. I think human beings in general, just like, we built that.
Yeah,
that's a cool thing.
Any one project, we may have 20 to 100 people from that community now have jobs created based on something that we got approved.
Or housing, or,
And those
whatever
people that need to work together, sometimes without that communication bridge, it might never happen. And that,
Yeah.
so in a sense, your business solves that problem.
Yeah, you could think of it like mediation in a way of getting two parties that do want the same thing, at least in a small way, want the same thing, and bringing them to the table and ultimately getting
for
there.
zoning in particular, when you need a variance, our process in Philadelphia is such that you have to obtain, not have to obtain community support, but you have to meet with the community and to present your project. Because when you're asking for a variance, you're asking to go up to build something, either height-wise or dimensionally or use-wise, that's not allowed based on our current code. So you have to meet with the neighbors who are going to be affected by it and the people who are advocates in that neighborhood and provide to them the product, and then get their feedback. And ultimately, the goal is to get support, because like anything in life, if you can get people on board, everything moves quicker.
Yeah.
It's when you're building something or providing something that people may not perceive as beneficial as you do. And then we all have council members who represent these districts and these neighborhoods who have to advocate for these people as well. So it's the balance between, who we represent, which is developers, but because I work for government, I see the government side, and I understand, with L&I, why you're not getting your permit as quickly. Well, if you understand anything about city government, the way it's funded, I've sat through many budget hearings while working for the councilman I worked for, and just being around in general. There's a reason everything doesn't move, and it's not as simple as you make it, but you have to get support, you have to get people to like it, and learn how to make tweaks. Sometimes it's a little give and take. We try to focus on vision with people, not sight. Sight is like A to B to C to D to, to task-based, or here's the plan. Vision is like, what can I do today that will help me 10 years down the road? Because with development, to do a career out of it, it's not one project. It's 1,000 projects over a career. Would you say that, in
a sense, your experience in the real estate community developing side, that what makes a great developer is that long-term vision for what they're going to be doing in a community to make it a win-win?
I think it's long-term vision. I think it's an understanding of the neighborhood. It's the interplay of, like you had mentioned before, you like information. I'm obsessed with information. I like knowing everything about everything in this space particularly. And if you know everything and you understand all the angles of it, you can provide something that makes sure that everyone's accounted for, right? So like, for instance, if you're a politician and you're working in an office that's supposed to represent the entire city, and the people you have staffed who give you advice or influence you don't look like the people, or don't have the age bracket, or don't have the experience, you're not getting all the information you may need to make a decision. So with developers, if you're going to propose a project in a neighborhood, but you don't understand the demographics or the issues, or where the council office may be, or where the city may be, then you're only making decisions like pretty clouded. Yeah, so that's what makes a good developer.
I would say in developers, it's flexibility, right? It's knowing that,
and listening.
It may look cookie cutter. It may look like the same thing you've built 100 times.
Yeah.
But you're placing it in one place, you're placing different. And Philadelphia is unique. It is a city of neighborhoods. It is really a city of neighborhoods, and every neighborhood's different.
Like each block.
Each block looks different depending on where you
and
are.
And certain people care about certain different things, right? So some people are really, some of the communities are transient. They're new people coming in, right? And some are long held places where they've had generations. This is maybe they're in the house that they've been in since their grandfather had the property, right? And it's just been generation after generation. That really is neighborhood to neighborhood, and that reflects. And I'd say every day we face a new challenge every day.
So
and
it's extremely interesting. Your background in education, you had a major in finance and a minor in like business law, and then you took a lot of time to invest in learning business development, like out in the field.
Yeah. Yep.
Sociology, as you studied, and law. To me, it seems like it's almost like a perfect match or a perfect
weird.
niche of focus for, if based on what you're saying, these small block-to-block
Yeah, no,
conversations that affect the
absolutely.
developer.
I think also
Yeah.
with
like
business,
psychologically speaking.
Yeah, I think of business, we're really lucky. We're fortunate, I think, that we do have literally, we make a perfect pairing. Not every day, right? We're siblings. Things will come up, and I'll say, you've been doing the same thing since you did when I was 14. But that being said, none of us are walking away. At the end of the day, it's family. We try to impart that as we're growing. But what I thought was interesting for us is I went to law school originally to really get a foundation in stuff I would need for business. My dad was a very successful business person, ran the largest consulting company in the city for a long time. And what he said was the one thing that was missing was his knowledge of the law.
Wow.
So my vision was actually to come out. I have wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life. I didn't know what tangibly that meant, as a lot of us don't know,
He
right?
wrote in third grade, like, everyone was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And Adam wrote, like, I want to be the CEO of a IT with my dad, an IT consulting firm. And I want, like, since he's in like little kid and
Wow.
yeah, always wanted to do that. Always wanted to do that.
So I did some formal law. When I left, I worked for the Superior Court, really learning just writing opinions, at a pretty high level.
Was a judge.
Judge of the Superior Court, president judge of the Superior Court. And then I transitioned over and started working at the zoning board as assistant counsel at the zoning board. So that was my touch with Rachel. Now, listen, I was seeing her in front of the board.
Which just so happens to be the board you have to go for zoning, the board you have to go in front of who makes the ultimate decision on whether you can get your variance approved or not. So it's just.
Was this when you were already actively
Doran.
I was
at Doran Baum. I worked for a zoning and land use attorney there, and I did municipal finance, weirdly enough. So some bond work, which is weird because when you work in government, you get hit with like budget and municipal work. I had had a taste of it, which was never something I was ever interested in. But it's like you're saying, kind of cosmically, when things just like fall into place, we just so happen to work itself out.
And so when I was thinking about what makes businesses succeed and fail, if you can't bring revenue in, there's nothing to talk about. All the admin I'd love to do, all the operations I'd love to do, all the consulting we'd love to do, it doesn't work if you can't bring customers in. So I made a strategic decision to join a venture-backed startup with another guy who was actually a lawyer. A lawyer in his previous life worked for a venture fund for a long time, Scott Bohr, and decided to join and really help run the business development. And it was really trial by fire, which I loved. Right.
So you did that to learn.
I did that. I didn't want to. That wasn't my goal. Wasn't to be a salesperson. It was purely to learn, to get to that next phase, to understand how to run a business. So I was doing legal there. I was doing operations there, and then I was really focusing on business development and sales. And when you're in the trenches, it's a place you don't want to be, but it's like the most necessary spot. And if you can be there, you can really make it. And I took that. I then moved on to become the national sales exec at a litigation consulting firm.
Was that a strategic move to get more experience?
It was a strategic move. So it was more experience because what I wanted to find out was how a traditional sales program worked. And so from there, I became the national sales exec, and I basically ran the business development. But what was interesting there was it was set up. They had a nice referral system already. I mean, they were a set company, right? Really. So it was getting them to the new age of technology. But for me, it was now I'm in a more traditional sales role. I'm constantly facing with clients. I'm now consulting. It was a much different thing. It was an experience I needed to get because I was starting to negotiate a lot more contracts. Where before it was business development, was bringing the contracts. This was now negotiating contracts.
Has that information education helped this?
Entirely, yep.
I never had any of that experience. So imagine going, hey, I want to start my own whatever, or let's start something. Here, all I can offer is this half of it, which was the skill set and a lot of the contacts and a lot of the understanding of how like this specific field goes. And then to go, oh, hey, by the way, I don't know numbers. I mentioned that 100 times. I'm terrible with numbers. So I need to figure out how to run books. And a lot of people will say like, or will, complain to me or say like, oh, I'm so busy, like I have so much on my plate. And I'm like, you don't have to worry about infrastructure. Like that's a thing you take for granted when you work for someone else or you work for an existing business, because the amount of infrastructure it even takes to operate a business. And so it's great to bring in revenue to service the work, but if you can't keep records of it, if you don't know how to project things, if you don't have someone that's working on sales or marketing or any of that, like even the software, like Adam will tell you I'm the most impatient person period, but I'm really impatient with even like email and stuff. Like you need so much stuff. And I worked at a big law firm and I worked at a counsel office. So like a little, a lot of infrastructure, a little bit of infrastructure, and then to do nothing. So all Adam's background. And then you want to hit the ground running and saying, I want clients. Like, well, they don't like just come to your door. Like they don't just knock and go, hey,
well,
where's your open?
It seems like that's a perfect relationship, because if your interest in school, it seemed like sociology, which would have to do with that block by block difference that developers really, wouldn't they need to know culturally how to come into a neighborhood the right way?
Well, if you don't care about, like, I'm really interested in like human behavior. Like psychology, sure, I took a psych class in college. It didn't like click with me, but like sociology is like human behavior. It's like why people do what they do. And like for another time, if you understood how we grew up, like it was always important for me to understand what, like, to sort of almost anticipate how someone was going to behave so I could like figure out how to like react or how to like handle something so that I could get ultimately what I needed to get out of whatever was going on.
Chess, not checkers.
Everything is chess with me. Like listen, it's how you move. Well, it's how you move. And so.
And just to go back a little bit, like 90% of any business is the same. That's what I found in the different, I really took some different places and 90% of it is the same. Anybody says different, it really isn't in my opinion. And that's because we do something unique. That's the 10%. Businesses still need the same, still need operations, you still need administrative stuff, you still need marketing, you still need sales. You still need money. And with that was that was a confidence booster, I would say, because I got to experience all of it. When you get to actually sit, like when you're a lawyer sometimes, you're working on stuff for people. Yeah. And you may have really intimate knowledge, but then how you go see it affect. So I got to write contracts, negotiate contracts, and then see them take effect. Good and bad. And it happens all the time today.
Not just like, in a sense, siloed in that space.
Right, and then you pass it on, right? Which now, listen, we do that at times, but we have if people could go back in time, right, like when they went to college, right, I was in finance. Yeah. Well, I understood it, but like I'm sitting in a marketing class learning about marketing concepts, and wouldn't it have been great if I had 5 or 10 years of marketing experience to say, all right, let me really listen down on this thing. Because this actually makes sense where like theoretical, and that's the hardest part of law school. A lot of it's very theoretical until you get in.
Going to law school, Rachel, what was that like? Was it easy? Was it hard? Or what got you through it?
I always wanted to be a lawyer. So like my dad wanted Adam to be a lawyer. And I don't know if like anyone really cared what I was doing. They were just like, she'll do something. Like she'll figure it out. But I always wanted to be a lawyer. Our parents got divorced. I saw a really ugly divorce growing up. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to like do this. Like there's just got to be a better way. So I said to myself, I'm going to go to law school. I want to be a divorce attorney. So it was never like, am I going to get through law school? I was like so happy. Like everyone's like, oh, the books. I'm like, more books, like more classes. Like, can I take? I loved law school, and because I wanted to be there. It's like anything. If you are there because you have to be, you don't want to do it. If you're there because you want to be.
Was that why you interned originally in the court? Was it the Superior Court originally,
so
and then the DA's
during
office?
Law school, I worked for the same judge. My 1L year. You're not supposed to like work in law school, but I worked every year and every summer because I felt like with college, I didn't do a lot of like actual work. Like, I did work classwork, but my dad would say to us in the summer, either go get a job or take classes. And we were like, we're not getting jobs. Let's go take classes. So I never like had like real jobs. We did summer camps and stuff, but I felt like if I'm going to get the job I really want to have, I need to like meet the right people. There's like something to that. So I went to work for this judge. She happened to be a divorce attorney before she was judge.
Wow.
So she was a big divorce attorney at Cozen O'Connor. She was like really well revered, well recognized. If you ever meet her, she's like the nicest person ever. And she like took me under her wing. I interviewed with her, and I got to work with me and 5 guys as law clerks for a summer. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do appellate work. Like that's not, I need something that challenges me more, but that's why I wanted to work for her. And then I thought maybe, I'll try criminal. Like maybe I don't want to for sure do divorce. Let me try criminal. And then I did property stuff, and the law firm I ultimately worked at had no.
What was the switch from the divorce process to the real estate? Because this is.
So I then, after my first year of law school, I got a job as a law clerk at Zarwin-Baum, and Zarwin-Baum doesn't have a family law department. Like, they just don't. So I said to myself, okay, well, we're going to have to figure something else out if they don't have it. And like we had a family friend who was a partner there. So, and it's competitive getting these like summer clerkships at big firms in Philly. I mean, anywhere, but it's competitive, especially when we were in law school. They didn't have family law. The next thing I liked was property. They had one zoning and land use attorney who just happened to take a liking to me. That he came in the back room, it was like a library, and he said, I need someone to review this lease and to make these changes to it. And the one law clerk who gave it to, she was like, oh, I don't really want to do this. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I did it, did a good enough job, and he was like, just continued feeding me more and more stuff. And then he was like never in the office, and I was like, what kind of lawyer? Like, he was never in his office. I would go to ask him a question, he was never there. I'm like, what kind of lawyer is never there? And like, I'm super social. Like, I love talking to people. I like, walking around. I'm like, I want to do that kind of law where like you're not sitting in an office all day, because who wants to sit in an office all day?
What made you, because before you even recognized that opportunity, which is vision, what made you even say, hey, I want to take this opportunity to do and not slack off? Where does that come from?
I'm just like a go-getter. Like, I've always
think?
worked hard.
What do I think?
You should know.
I think she has a chip on her shoulder, and I think that it's now, we've worked it to a place that it's advantageous more than it's detrimental. But
I think that's a compliment.
But
my chip's so big, is my arm leaning?
I'm someone you could go to war with, right? Yeah. Like, I'm someone who, like, I've been through some stuff. We've all been through some stuff, and I channel that into something positive. But like, you don't want to go to war with someone who's like, if we win, if we lose, if we do a good job, I'm like, yo, let's kill this. Like, let's kill this.
A thing, it's really not preaching. A thing we go off a lot of back and forth is sometimes we care too much about the project. Yeah. We get too into it.
Like, the square footage of the bathroom is, and Adam's like, that's not a concern.
That you almost can't see. You almost can't see straight, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's when you have the amount of clients, and we're fortunate to have a lot now.
Plus, when you're working as a law clerk, and you're like, the firm I worked at did a lot of like insurance defense, med mal. They did some like real estate stuff, but a lot of it was like really complex, like transaction that you're not going to give a law clerk. So when you're doing like I worked there for like 2 years. 2 like full summers as a law clerk, and then I got hired after I passed the bar. But like, when you're just doing that kind of work and someone's like, here's something totally different, you're like, I'm going to take it. So like, a lot of it was that too. And it's property, it's leases, it's practical.
And she just happened to fall in love with property. And then she dragged me into falling in love with property. So that year I spent doing the zoning board, I loved it. Like, I loved it, but I didn't see the avenue necessarily until she came to me and said, I want to figure this out. I want to do it on my own.
Rachel, when you got involved in property, did you immediately realize that people were behind the properties, and like that kind of drew you into it with the social aspect?
I worked for this partner who is one of my biggest mentors to this day, who like let me sit in meetings with clients, let me go to site visits, like trusted me enough, and really, he was the first person I ever worked for that I felt like showed me that I could sparkle. Like made me feel, like a mentor, like made me feel like special. Like I was someone who was like worthy of doing this kind of work, and like really trusted me early on to like meet with a client. Like, usually at law firms, you don't meet with a client if you're not the partner or you're not the like established associate. Like, they don't trust you because like, what if you say, He was like, he like let me shine, and it didn't bother his ego if I sparkled in a meeting or whatever. And because of that, like, I just was able to interface with developers. I got to go see the project. I got to go to ribbon cuttings. I got to go to the council offices and meet with councilmen. I got to go and talk to the commissioners of whatever. Like, he exposed me to all that, and I fell in love with that. I was like, wow, like, this is, and it's interesting when you're not sitting in a desk just cranking work out. Like, it's interesting.
That, like, in a sense, counterculture to the normal way it's done.
Quasi-culture?
Totally.
Most law firms are just offices and cubicles.
We practice law, sure, but
there seems to be this
and it's so relationship focused, and there may be certain things, but listen, I write a lot of contracts for people. That's a deliverable thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we do It's relationship based. It's figuring out. It's really strategy. It's sitting there and figuring out how are we going to get from point A to point Z. And by the way, there's a bunch of hurdles.
There's an intellectual property component to law that maybe not be understood or talked about, is what you're saying. That's what I'm learning from you today.
Yeah, well, always, any kind of lawyer, too. Like, if you have enough experience, you know how to move a specific way. If you don't utilize what you're learning, then that's a whole nother conversation. But with us, it's like every project I do, I'm like, oh, now I know how to handle this one better. Or like, now I know how to handle that neighborhood better. So when someone comes in and says, hey, I have a project in this area, I'm like, I know exactly how to handle that. And I use what I messed up on before, what I failed to oversee or whatever, failed to see into this. And it's the same with people. When you meet with someone, you can say, well, I had a meeting with so-and-so about this project. This is the energy, like, you can read people, right? Like, if you're good at it, you pay attention to it, you can read people. It's no matter if they don't say it to you out loud, you can tell by body language. And I study people that I get to work with because I want to I want to understand what they're saying without them saying it to me. And sometimes in politics and with a lot of interest involved, they're not going to flat out say what they really want to say because they have to say it a certain way, or it's not, maybe they're not pulling all the strings.
Has that helped you actually help people in ways they couldn't even comprehend?
It helps me move people to where not necessarily they want to be, but where they need to be in order to be successful. You're asking people to allow you to do something that the law says no to for whatever reason it says, and the zoning code is an animal in and of itself that people agree and disagree with if it's right. But yeah, you get to help people see things. And again, it's vision, not sight. It's like, if we make this tweak here on this one project where it's not really going to matter to you one way or another, but it really makes a big difference to this person or this group of people or this community, it's going to make all the rest of this easier. And in Philly, your reputation is everything. It's a small city. It's the 5th largest city. It's a small
big city.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if you can make a good reputation on little things and people trust you. So if I have a conversation with someone who works in a council office and I say, I'm going to continue the hearing on Wednesday, they don't have to show up and make sure I did it. They know I'm going to do it. Same with other people have said to people, oh, I'm going to do this, and they don't do it. And there's a whole sense of, there's no trust around it.
And when I dove into this, and when I dive, I really dive, and we were in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was about creating a culture that was different than what we saw, because we were going to need a niche, right? It was going to be competitive. We weren't going to have the same experiences, but we wanted to find. So what we decided was we were going to be the community's lawyer, in the sense of we were going to listen. We were just going to listen. So the very first thing we did was we called every RCO, which is a registered community organization. Every neighborhood has 5 of them, let's say.
We didn't even solicit for business. We were like, I said to Adam, I literally was like, we need to meet with every RCO. He goes, Rachel, we have to start a business here. And I said, let me explain to you why this is really important. He was like, okay, let's do it. And we literally reached out, because if Adam knows how to get anyone's email in this planet, Adam can get. Like, I'm not kidding you. Anyone's email, he could get.
In a non-Zuckerberg way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, in a non-invasive way. But like, literally, because at his old job, they were like, we need you to get in contact with the CEO of Gap. And he was like, okay. And then like figured out how to because he's good at figuring out technology, and he understands what email people would actually answer to. Like, no, this is the business one, but this is really the one they go for. So he helped me reach out to all this, and we met with every group that would meet with us and said this to them. We have no projects right now. We literally don't have a single client, not a single project. We want to understand what you like and don't like about the projects you've seen. Yeah, and we want you to tell us what you do want. So if we get developers who are open to it, we can bring them to you.
Philadelphia's been in a hot market for a longer time than people realize, too. So, usually it's an 8-year period. We're on year 16 on that trend. So development is inevitable in some of these places, right? Mm-hmm. And communities do know that, but they want it to be done in a way that's responsible. And some don't care. Some say, listen, the bigger the better. But not all of them do. And like we said,
you point me to that district?
Yeah, there's never a more important time, I don't think, in the city maybe, that where communities are really being heard more than they are now, and so understanding what they need. It's the only way to move.
Why is that?
We're in an election cycle right now. You might want to cut this, but we're in an election cycle right now. So elected officials, they're all up for re-election May 21st. And their constituents are the people that vote for them in their districts. So if they have a wide, and although we are a huge city, a lot of people don't vote.
Well,
a lot of people don't vote.
Actually psychologically interesting in the sense of, our founding fathers, maybe they set this up for a reason, that in a sense, election cycles invisibly hold together the democracy of a
That's
nation.
really
I mean, in a
interesting.
sense.
Yeah,
Think about it sociologically speaking.
Yeah.
Like, that's your
And
pedigree.
they're listening to the people. And sometimes I think there's got to be like a fine line, because I think that if you're only in office because you just want to get reelected and you're not focused on what you're doing, like I think if you do a good job, like this may be naive. If you do a good job, people will want you to continue doing a good job. If you talk about wanting to do a good job and you're still doing the same things over and over that are not acting on that, or doing anything that's remotely controversial or like remotely courageous, like then what are you doing? And people get comfortable. And I think that if you're going to be an elected official and you're going to listen to your communities, you also have to advocate for like change in some ways, or at least like some sort of like middle ground with things. You can't just have a bunch of people who are super angry and a bunch of people who want change and then just go, well, these are people that are voting, so I'm going to stick with this, and not like try and get us somewhere to move like everything for it. And that doesn't always happen. It's a lot of times it's like, well, this is my base that votes. They've been voting for whatever. It's 3,000 votes that make the difference here. I can't upset any of these people, even if I fundamentally don't agree with what they are advocating for. And I don't really want to step in because I don't want to I don't want to muddy the waters.
I actually think what was interesting about meeting these RCOs and spending the time with them, it brought one of our biggest passions out, and we ended up taking that pretty far. And it'll be our life goal, which is getting more affordable housing, workforce housing in this city of 26% poverty.
Wow.
And we had the opportunity to work with the city for about 8 months, helping them with their marketing on workforce housing, because they weren't getting the people that they needed. They wanted the workforce.
We wanted to understand why isn't this working to the level you want it to work.
And of course, when we started getting some clients and saying, we heard there was such little movement on these affordable housing workforce, but we were talking to these private developers and they were open to it. And it didn't make sense to me.
I can relate to that in the sense of attempting to even go and speak at schools philanthropically. There's so many, it's so difficult in this world, it seems, to actually do good sometimes.
Right. And
so
there's hurdles.
Were you seeing that in a sense
as
well?
Well, you know what? Rachel really imparted, and I think it's something we grew up with, but then Rachel really learned it in politics, is if you mean what you say and you do what you say, then people have trust with you. And the problem that we learned, in one of those cultural things we wanted to change, is if we say we're going to do it, we're absolutely going to do it.
It takes time. Think about how many people who want something will tell you what you want to hear, right? Yeah. Because they want something. But then on the end of the day, when push comes to shove, they're not really going to do it. And so the city sees a lot. People complain in the city this. Imagine being a council member where you have developers you don't know, they're not necessarily in your circle. You've got a 982 other things you got to focus on depending on what your district is. There's issues from poverty to homelessness to drugs to issues with vacancy. I mean, there's a billion issues. You have a developer who comes in and says, "I want to do this." Obviously, it's self-interested because they're not a nonprofit 9 times
but that's
out of 10.
Okay, right? Right? Because I think that there has to be a line, right?
Sure.
And it has to be, because here's the thing, nobody's ever coming in unless there's an interest in some way, even if it's philanthropic. There's a selfish interest there that they want to be there. And so understanding that, not being naive to it, I think, and also on their end, not being naive that there are people that aren't going to like their vision.
Well, isn't that, in a sense, what you guys have successfully done together?
That's exactly.
You're opening that communication.
We use our good relationships and the trust that we've, earned, truthfully, because it's been earned over. People think I walk in a lot of these offices very comfortably, but I earned that because I worked there and I was a nice person and I was honest and I didn't often agree with things because I worked for a member who felt however they felt about certain issues, and sometimes we really did agree with things, and I earned the trust. So now for our clients, I get to leverage the trust that I earned to help validate them and what they want to do.
Disagree when you need to.
Well, it's just being honest. It's just being honest. People disagree by nature. It's about disagreeing in a respectful manner and being honest about the fact, not saying, "Oh yeah, we're cool with that," then walking out going forget that, we're going to do this.
Listen, it's about about standing your, it's about having integrity.
Yes.
It's
Simple.
about being transparent with our clients. We turn down more cases than we take.
You have to stop saying that. No.
Well,
we turn down more cases than we take.
We're so busy. I wish that was the case. We're so busy.
Well,
I'm sorry. We're so busy.
So you know why that's amazing? Because you're real. Welcome to the world.
We turn down a lot of stuff that we don't believe in the sense like we can't either feel comfortable advocating for it or like we won't do stuff that we feel like we can't deliver competently. We're getting so much, I think because of the groundwork that we did in the beginning and because of the way that we operate, we're getting a lot more, we're growing weight. So although Adam may feel like we're turning a lot of stuff down, we are taking on a lot at once too. So
and we've really expanded what we did.
Yeah.
So we're very conservative about what we take on because we want to do the best job, right? And that came with getting a host of advisors behind us, people that we can really call on, so that I feel like I can go take this on with a court. You know, somebody's holding me so I don't fall off the ledge.
Yeah.
But what I think is amazing in business that they don't tell you in law school and things like that, you can work for what you want, and nobody's going to tell you. I mean, I earned my place in working on tax assessments, working on contracts, working in landlord-tenant representation, working in litigation. Nobody gave that to us. Nobody even opened the door. I pushed my way in by being transparent, saying I will work harder than that person, but I will also be real with you the entire time. And that's opened a lot of doors for us.
Not a lot of lawyers will say to you like, oh, no, I don't think it's a case. Because lawyers get paid on like effort, right? Like we like to win because like who doesn't like to win, but also like we like to take good cases because it's our reputation and like you want me to advocate for you. That's what lawyers do. You advocate for someone and use the law in your favor, but you advocate for someone. If you want me to advocate for you, I want to believe in what you're going to deliver so that I can make sure that I can advocate for you. Yeah. If I don't believe, imagine advocating for something you don't care about or not don't care, but like you just don't think it's the right thing to do.
And now imagine doing that when we help people with public property acquisition. Imagine doing that to career politicians who see that every day. So you better they can pick you apart right away.
I'm not going to go into counsel.
In the sense of you have to be completely true with yourself and know who you are.
You know what?
You're
It's strategic, but I mean more so with you have to believe that the guy that you're backing, right, that developer, means what he says, and he doesn't. Okay, I've got the grant because it happens a million times. They get the approval, they get the project, they don't do it, and they go sell it. They do all sorts of things. So. When somebody believes you,
members are responsible for that a lot of the time.
And then listen. Even a district councilman, you have to give a lot of respect. Hundreds of thousands of people support and vote for these people, right? Yeah. So they have those people. I mean, there's constituent services is a job, and it's just a nonstop phone call of people.
What is that? What is that?
So in every council office. There's two types of council members, district and at large. District council members, there's 10 districts in the city, 1 through 10, like the Hunger Games. Like I think there's 12 Hunger Games. So like 1 through 10 and 1 council member per each, and they represent like a geographic boundary. Well, those people, that's who they get voted by, is the people that live within that geographic boundary. And then the people that they service or they help with things or they have to deal with on a regular basis, people that live in that district. So if you have a stoplight out, call the council office. You have a property that's going to get like demoed, or you have an issue with trash on the street, or you have, there's crimes, or there's a dog running loose, or like whatever, a million little nitpicky things. That's who you call, and then the council office has to service that. Well, they have somebody in their offices, usually more than one. Like in an at-large office, maybe it's 1 or 2. District offices, it's a lot more like hands-on because you're actually representing constituents. Like at-large, like the councilman I work for, like you represent the whole city. You legislate on things that affect everyone. District council members focus on just their district. And although people might say like, oh, it's just one district, you don't have to worry about the whole city, but it's like, you got to worry about every single parcel and every single person, every stoplight, and every traffic light, and every single like curb cut and every single pothole. Like that's you that has to get those calls. And the person sits there in their office, or a couple people, and they take phone calls all day from all types of people. I mean, people who are of sound mind, not of sound mind, people who make a lot of money, make no money, people who work, don't. I mean, all different demographics of people with all different needs. And then they have to figure out how to help them with these issues. My water bill, and they have to now track down the city agency that deals with that. And now I got to call this person. I've had people help with like, I can't find my cat. Like, okay, well, we don't, and they'll call you, or they'll pop up and they'll show up in your office, and so that's a really hard job.
So coming full circle in the sense of where you are today with your business and a business, a vision to a solution of a problem first. Developers want to come in, of course, in their nature to solve their problems than solve the community. But however, there's all these other variables down to the understanding of a person that has to pick up a freaking phone to make sure a cat is either in a tree or by a fire hydrant or not. And in a sense, you guys are
we are the tour guides.
in between.
Yeah,
We're
The tour
tour
guide
guides.
with the developer and the council, at every level of abstraction.
Like to
of every
think of it
different
as
council
project
person.
management.
We're like the intermediary.
Yeah.
We're like, we'll because we understand how this piece works, and we definitely understand what you want. Let us help you figure out how to get from A to B, and it's not A to B to C to. It's like A to F to J to M to K to L to this,
Because
then to here.
Would you say, in the sense, law as its foundation must develop with culture,
Yeah,
or else
absolutely.
it represses culture in the sense of that
And,
we're
and
stagnant.
it's based on legislation. Listen, like there's policies made by people that make the law who aren't lawyers. So then in a lot of times, and so you're dealing with what's the reality of those decisions, and it's all based on policy and real estate more than anything. I mean, there are so many laws and things because this is the biggest property. It affects you. It affects safety. It affects every neighborhood of stuff.
Well, and you're dealing with people. Like the gatekeepers to everything are people. It's not machines. It's like you walk into a council.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of a day that person just had, or maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe their kid just died. I mean, like you're dealing with people, and then you're asking them to like help you out with something, but you're not coming always from like a human level. Like,
or you may have the wrong person. There's 20,000 people there. There's 20,000
and that
workers.
person can't even make a decision because they have to answer to this person, and you don't know how the hierarchy works. You ever walk into a business, you don't walk right up to the president? I mean, no, you have to like go through the secretary, and then maybe it's not that secretary because he doesn't really like her, but the partner wants her there. And then you got to go over to Nancy because Nancy, and then you got to go talk to Sean over here because he actually. It's all interconnected like that.
And that's our niche. Our
I
niche is
feel as though
understand
in
that.
And that's
third
what we
grade,
do.
you made a decision to be an entrepreneur, and menteed with judges and council people and got into 3 different businesses that you got promoted every single time. I saw, and one day you get a call from your twin, psychological, who went to school, understand human behavior, went through. You thought you were going to get into divorce law. You attempted to do other types of law, but found something that it seems like be a calling together, which is basically the bridge between everything that happens in the sense of a city that grows without growing too quickly to overgrow its people. Am I kind of getting the understanding?
Want to hear the craziest part? We have a dad who was an unbelievably successful entrepreneur, built a business ground up, like very similar to Adam in that way. And then we have a mom, also an entrepreneur, but a psychotherapist and a Buddhist. So like think of that interplay that created like, so we have these perfect sides of us that are like super business and like we need to get stuff done, but also like super like empathetic and like we understand people and like we try to make like communities better, or at least like trying to advocate as best we can to see all sides. And like that comes from like, I literally think that's from how we were raised and like the sides, we saw polar opposite parents, but like it all has this beautiful interplay in our
When
skill.
they decided to go a different way in the path of life, how old are you?
10.
10, 12. It was about a 5-year divorce, so I don't know.
And these are 2 different sides of the spectrum that in a sense make a whole. What that whole could be you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that's interesting.
I'd like to think we're a microcosm of, we have a little bit of each one. And I think
The question is, would you, if not for that blessing?
wow.
No, I
I
wouldn't
don't
be me
think
without
so.
that. No way.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, there's an ambition with us and a want to do right and better society that I don't think would have came because, listen, we grew up in a nice area and we both fell in love with Philadelphia at different times, and the biggest issues are stuff that I've never faced. How did we find that? Well, we struggled in our own ways with stuff, but then we realized like there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of issues, and we're all human, and we only got that through the pain and suffering. But really learning and having caring parents in different ways.
Has that created empathy in your business?
My mom
tremendously.
is like the most empathetic. My mom like does drug and alcohol rehabilitation for people who have court mandated therapy, and like my mom is like the most. My mom would rescue an ant. Like we didn't kill bugs growing up, and we're both vegans, so like the love of just like life in general is like huge for both of us, and that's like being vegan is like our religion
and
almost.
I think we're just really lucky that we have the same life passion, which is to help people who can't afford homes get in homes, and figuring out how we can, in our specific piece, our little piece, is figuring out how we can get those homes built so that there's enough inventory.
So in a sense, the developer that comes in, that is open and curious to see how they could actually give back in a community that may not be able to because of all of the infrastructure in their way and all those different people that have to talk to. You're bringing them together.
And it all
to
goes
be
back
able
to what
do that.
Rachel said, right? Like, unless you're building a 2,000 unit monstrosity, right? You're gonna want to build in an area you feel comfortable with, and you're gonna build over time. So you're gonna build a real relationship with that community because you're tangibly putting stuff there. And if you can think about it, it's a neighborhood is just a microcosm of a district, which is just a microcosm of a state, a city, and just microcosm of a state. So you have all those same issues, but there's always going to be poverty there. And if you can make it better, well, that's the relationship that you're going to want to have because you've become really a part of that community. You care about something that isn't just your pocket. And that may actually, in fact, help your pocket later on based on those relationships.
What do you respect most about your sister?
I think it's the weirdest thing in the world was seeing your sister become an expert in something. And really,
Which is obvious.
Yeah, and really, really care about people in a way that I don't know when it really clicked because I didn't see it. I was in Denver for a little bit. I was away from things, and to see her, really care, like to the point that sometimes again it's detrimental for our business. I mean, we take on, we will listen to clients, we will listen to new business for hours because Rachael just wants to help, and you don't find a lot of attorneys. It's okay, interesting. I need to be retained, and then I'll give you some. No, we'll get burned a lot on that, and we're okay with that because we care. And eventually they'll be back because we care. And I think that's what matters. I think that's what's going to keep us in that percentage of companies that don't fail. And we've had tremendous success because of it. And it's really because, Rachael cares and Rachael knows what the hell she's doing, truthfully.
One thing you respect most about your brother?
Adam is one of the most humble people I think I know. When we first started, he let me stand out front and sparkle while he just paid for everything. Just first and foremost, I quit my job working for government. So I wasn't making it rain at government. And he said, I believe in you. So much so that I'll put and Adam is a very, very conservative with money. He's very good.
Frugal.
He's very good with, people who are good with money don't just give it away. Me, I'm just and this and that, let's all get new desks. He's we don't need new, so Adam is super humble, enough to say I believe in you. I'll let you go. Not I'll let you, but I want you to go do this. I believe it. But a couple other people are no, go work at another law firm or go. Adam's no, go do this. Even if you fall on your face, I got your back, and really in the most generous of ways possible. And then as we continue along, he's always pushing me to be a better person. He knows I can do the work, right? He knows I can bring in the work. He knows I can service, but he wants me to be a better person. And a lot of times people who you work with that are not your siblings, or they just want the most out of you, from a monetary perspective. But I'll say to him hey, I need to go do this for my personal, we're so busy right now. I took a 2-hour lunch the other day.
Those lines blur, right? When you're busy between what life is and what your career is, there's almost no distinction at this point. And what we have to always ground ourselves in is that we need to spend time with family. We need to spend time with our health. Luckily, we love what we do, so I really don't consider it work. I mean, there's some days you could catch me, it feels like work, but we have those boundaries. But then we're now working towards that. The busier we get, it's learning to delegate, having associates now, having paralegals, having admin. That's the fun now, but it's the most challenging.
So
managing people really to believe in what you believe in, and now be an extension of you. It's a wonderful challenge, but it's got its moments.
And my dad always says to us, I'll say to people, they'll die making this work. Adam is so committed. When you work with someone else, or when you hire an associate, you're I want them to love this. I want them to want to wake up at 2 a.m. and be oh, that one email I need. You want someone to care. I never waver on his loyalty to this business or to me, or even on our worst days. He's so respectful of me, of us, of what we're doing. I throw crazy stuff at him sometimes, and he's okay. Or he'll say well, maybe we should tweak it this way. And he's patient and all the things that you want someone else to possess. And he's my brother. So it's not a song and dance, or it's not about revenue, or it's and that's for me, the most important is he lets me be me, but he wants me to be the best me. And he sees me for who I am and what I can bring to the table. And he doesn't let his own like any other male that I would know that would partner with another female might not always be like, okay, like you go be the star, like you go shine for this thing, or like you be the one that talks at this, thing, or let's go put your face out there or whatever. And he's just, sometimes they don't remember his name, and he's like, I don't even care, like, that's cool, like that. And a lot of other people might not have, I know, would not have been okay with that, or to say here, like, I don't even know if we can do this, but like, I'll finance the whole thing. And I'm not like, he wasn't like throwing, I mean, he was like, I'll pay for your QuickBooks, and really making, like, he worked a full-time job. When I left, he quit his job 6 months after I left. He literally worked a full-time job and all of this, because he believed in what I was doing. And if we had turned around and we had failed on our face, he would never have been like, well, I put all this money out for you. Like, it never was a hold over your head thing. It was like, I'm happy to do it, whatever you need. Of course, like, I had to justify it. But
it wasn't going to fail. I mean,
but
you see that passion. You see the passion, and you see it working. And like, listen, you don't go into confidence, but it's like when you see somebody, I feel like I'm a good judge of character. And when I see somebody, and you may not see it in yourself, but when you say, well, you're going to be successful, like, because you have those traits. She had those traits. I think that for the business to succeed, isn't it so harmonious that I got to be that support beam for that? And we've grown faster than we could have ever imagined in a short period of time. And while that's scary, it's another proof that we're doing something right, I think.
Well, I can give you guys my truth. Yeah. In 130 conversations last year and a half, 2 of them were 2 people. And this is one of the most difficult things to do. And knowing what I know and have learned today about you guys and your backgrounds and how well you complement each other from being different, you've done a very good job of listening to each other.
Appreciate
and it's one
that.
of the hardest things to do, especially as abstract and intelligent and brilliant both of you are in what you are really good. It's so obvious. Like, we'll be able to see it later. And I just want to say that to you because, anyone watching this is one of the most difficult things to do, is have a conversation not scripted, where I can see your love for your sister and you for your brother, and you know what you want to add, and you genuinely listen to each other. And
it takes work.
I have a great amount of respect for that.
Maybe we always need Jay here to.
Well, I have a great amount of respect. Thank you.
I appreciate
because
that.
It's taken hundreds of this for me to attempt to be a better listener to people. So I appreciate you guys today. We have to do it again for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
It's
great seeing you.
This is amazing. You guys are awesome.
Yeah,
thank you. I want to build something now.
Good. Do
Please
it.
do.